An ongoing debate in the world is whether or not sex workers are entitled to have a certain level of respect than other people. It is a debate that has basically plagued the world since the beginning of time. A lot of people are under the impression that sex workers can't be raped. Sex workers can't possibly be abused because they get paid for their interactions with people. SVU and other criminal shows have shown us over the years, however, that that's not the case. All this is suffice to say that sometimes the people that work in the industry are just as worthy of love and acceptance as anyone else. Despite the fact that they work and get money for doing sexual acts to other people, they're still people. And sometimes, at the very least, you can look at a person and say, you know what? You're still a human being, and I should still treat you with respect. This is the one with the erotic masseuse. After another on-again, off-again situation with my girlfriend, I had decided to just go on a Tinder bender. A Tinder bender, if those of you are not aware, is when you basically just go swiping through Tinder, Bumble, and other dating apps as a way to find a quick hookup. A one-night stand, a one and done, or a fuck buddy. In my case, I was just looking for a one and done. I didn't want to know your name. I didn't want to know your personality traits. I didn't want to know where you grew up. I just wanted to get my pussy ate and go home. I didn't want to sleep over. I didn't want to smoke. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to get to know you. It was just simple transaction. You have sex with me. I have sex with you. We shake hands and I leave. There was going to be no interaction, no commentary, no nothing. Just two grown adults taking care of business, and that was the end of it. My normal go-tos that I usually went to for situations like this were all busy or boot up at the time, or else I would have just picked someone from the Rolodex. But unfortunately, I had to go old school and just start swiping. So I'm at work and I'm swiping, and my coworker's helping me. And this girl definitely was one of the very few people in my life that had seen me through a lot of benders like this. So she kind of already knew the type of body type I was looking for, the type of, female that I was going to find myself more interested in. So she was definitely sitting there helping me swipe through and make a decision. So finally I landed on a young woman who lived about 15 minutes from my house, who was in her early 20s like me, very nice build, gorgeous, full-figured, and the only difference was she wrote it down on her page that she was an erotic masseuse. She said she had all of documentation that she was STD free and other forms of STIs and HIV and everything else. She had documents saying that she didn't have any type of sexually transmitted diseases in the event that we did want to have sex. That was probably the only time in the history of all of my Tindering that anyone had ever actually put their papers up there and actually acknowledged the fact, that they were safe to hook up with. I found it kind of interesting. And I had never actually met anyone who did anything like that for a living. Like, I heard that there were people who, were, personally trained masseuses that worked out of their houses. I did not know that anyone ever did happy endings. I thought that was just something you've seen in porn. So my coworker said, "Are you absolutely sure that you want to put yourself in this type of situation? Because what happens if you get there?" And she was always so concerned for me. And I'll give it to her. T was always so concerned about me and my safety. And I told her that I knew what I was getting myself into. So I went home, showered, changed my clothes, and agreed to meet this girl at her apartment. The girl's house seemed simple enough. She actually agreed to meet me at the corner of her block so I didn't have to walk up the street in the dark by myself. We talked on the phone the entire way to her place, just because she said she didn't want me to feel like I was, walking into something and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. She let me know that she lived in a 3-bedroom house with 2 other people. They had a roommate who lived in the basement, and a girlfriend of hers lived on the 2nd floor with her. It was a pretty simple arrangement. She said I didn't have to, talk to anyone or have any, type of altercations with anyone if I didn't feel comfortable. She said it could be just as simple as what we both said we wanted, which was a quick fucking done. Like, that was it. So I get there and it's everything like she said. We go up to her room. We chill for a minute. We talk. She asked me a little bit about myself, and I gave, the normal answers when I didn't really want anyone to know about my business. I kind of just told them, I was 20 something years old. I worked at a pizza place. I worked to take care of my mom and my sisters. I kind of just gave them, the overall, thing. I like to go out. I like to have a good time. I wasn't really looking for anything serious, kind of just something to take the edge off because I just got out of a really serious situation. She kind of told me she was in a simpler situation, that she had a lot of hard times keeping men around because she obviously worked a certain type of job that a lot of men deemed, irresponsible or negative. So she didn't really have a lot of guys stick around long enough to actually have a relationship with her. I said I could kind of understand where they're coming from. And, we just kind of dialogued. It really wasn't, anything, too serious or too in-depth. She offered to smoke me up. That did kind of go against my rule. This was supposed to be just a quick go in, get my goods done, and then just leave. But, she seemed like an okay person. So I agreed to, smoke a couple, and, she offered me a beer. So we were just talking, and, it actually was not what I had planned initially. I didn't want to get caught up in the whole, getting to know a person and actually talking and conversing and, laughing and enjoying each other's company. We actually didn't do anything with each other that entire night. We literally just smoked and drank and talked and watched TV. I never even got my rocks off. But it was getting late. I didn't like being out that late, especially when I had to work the next day. So she said, here, I'll get you an Uber home. And she said, maybe, we could try this again with, the actual intent that we both had going into it. A rain check. Sounded perfectly fine to me. I gave her a kiss. I got in the Uber and I left. A couple of weeks later, I was hanging out with some friends of mine at a bar, and I got a message from her in my DMs on Tinder, and she asked if I would be interested in hooking up with her later on that night. She said, I'm going to come pick you up. She's like, I got my roommate's car. I can come get you. We can go grab a bite, and then, we can go back to my place and, finish what we didn't get a chance to start last time. I mean, I was kind of intrigued. It wasn't, I wasn't really, I had no other plans. I was, kind of just shooting the shit with my friends and stuff. I really didn't have any real plans. So I told them that I had to leave. They all kind of gave me the look. They all said, oh, you're going to go get your pussy ate? I said, yes. So I went home, kind of, freshened up a little bit, and then called her and told her I was ready when she was. So she came and got me, and we went, grabbed some food from a Spanish spot that I'd never been to before, but the food was banging. And then we drove to her place. Her roommates were there. The guy who lives in the basement, he had a couple of friends over. They were hanging out or whatever, playing cards and drinking and stuff and smoking. Her female roommate had a date, so she was on her way out the door. It was really chill. And I guess they kind of caught the vibes from me and her, that we wanted to be left alone. So the guys went downstairs and me and her laid up on the couch and watched Netflix and stuff. So she had a bed in the living room, which was what I assumed is the table and all that, where she did her business. She had a bed right next to it. So she kind of said, well, why don't we, move this over there? And we hooked up. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible. I was not completely disgusted. It wasn't really bad. She took care of business. But I could tell that she was a woman who didn't have sex with other women. She didn't give pleasure to other women very often, because she really didn't know what she was doing down there. As far as the waist up, she knew exactly what she was doing. She was rubbing on everything the right way. She was kissing on everything the right way. But as far as the waist down, she really had no idea what the fuck was happening. So, I kind of just took care of her, and I figured, when I got home, I'd rub one out or something, or I'd call somebody else and, get the job done. So it wasn't awful. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't really anything to write home about. She said I was the best head she'd ever had, and I really wasn't surprised, because back in the day, y'all, I was really good at putting it down. But we kind of just agreed to leave it at that. We weren't really going to try and do it again or anything like that. We did text and talk for a couple of weeks after that. We would occasionally go get a shot together or something. We would hang out sometimes, but not really a whole lot. And then later on down the line, she had hit me up and told me that she was going back home to her country because she had some financial issues and she needed to go back home to her parents. So she moved back home, and I kind of, moved on and stuff, but we still kept in touch for a minute. She was really sweet, and it was really kind of a moment of it's kind of like an epiphany for me where I realized that we do put a lot of judgment on women based off of what it is they do. Like, I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of male people like that, like gigolos and stuff, that do that kind of stuff for women all the time and for other men. And I don't think that they would get nearly the type of slack that we give to women. Like, I can definitely think of a couple of men that definitely don't get a lot of slack for the stuff that they do like that to other women or to men. But I do digress that I did learn a very valuable lesson. I did learn that maybe it isn't always the safest bet to just immediately just look at someone and think that the only thing they're good for is sex. You know, some people do have other qualities. Some people do have other, you know, personality traits that they can actually, you know, be good for. You know, she was actually a really good person to chill with. Like, she was always down to smoke and drink. We had the same taste in movies. She was just really great for conversation. She liked to eat. So, you know, it's nothing, you know, to smoke a couple bowls and then go grab some food, drink, and maybe, you know, fool around or something. She was just really like a really like down ass type of female. And that was something that I think I was missing, because I was always trying to immediately jump into a relationship with someone, or I was immediately jumping into the whole thing of just being like someone's like blow up doll. I never actually thought for a second of actually just being someone's like homie, drinking and smoking with a friend, chilling with a friend. And I think that was what this girl kind of gave me. She kind of gave me that homie-esque vibe without actually really being friends. Like, we didn't really know a whole lot about each other. Like, she didn't know, like, my sister. She didn't know, like, my family situation. She didn't know any of my friends. It was more or less like we were just homies for the fact that we both like sex. We both like weed. We both like to drink. And we both had the same taste in, like, movies and music and stuff. So it was kind of like an easy, real, like, just vibe, which is something that I was really missing at the time. I either had one extreme or the other. I was either automatic girlfriend or automatic bestie. Like, there was never a in between, and she was that in between for me. Now, do I regret immediately looking at someone and thinking, oh my God, like, the only thing they're good for is sex? Absolutely. I realized how completely and utterly, like, cruel that was, and like demeaning, because I literally looked at her, I looked at what she did for a living, and I just assumed that if nothing else, we could just have a really good fuck, and then that would be it. I never intended to actually like this person, like her personality. I never expected to like actually get to know her or like really like vibe out with her. It was all about the sex for me. And that was the first time that I ever actually felt a sense of like guilt or remorse for how I felt about someone, because normally I didn't care. Like, I would go, you could ask any of my friends, I would go to the club almost every other weekend and hook up with random bitches in bathrooms. Like, I would literally go down on bitches in the bathroom at Woody's or Voyeur. And I wouldn't really care about their story afterwards. We might exchange numbers and might text for like a day or two, but then it would kind of fall off. I never really thought anything of it. I just thought that's what you do. Like, I just thought when you're just fooling around, when you're just seeing what's out there in the world, that's what you do. You use and abuse women because that's what you do. Like, that's what makes being in your 20s fun. It's all about being the Samantha Jones of the friend group in your early 20s. You're just fucking and leaving, fucking and ducking, which is great when you're, you know, when at some point that stops and you find that person that you know, settle down with and, you know, build a life with. But when you realize that you're not actually actively doing that, you're either doing that or you're immediately jumping into a relationship that you're not emotionally ready for. And that's what I was doing. And this hookup with this girl really kind of brought that out in me, that realization that I really needed to take a good hard look at myself in the mirror and realize what I was doing was wrong. I was no different than a man. I saw a girl with a fat ass, a nice rack, a really sensual voice. I saw that she literally had sex for money. That was literally in her job description, and I literally just thought she'd have no issue just fucking and ducking. Not realizing that maybe she wanted a homie too. Maybe that's why she was on the app. Maybe she was looking for something else. And I didn't even put that into consideration when I swiped right. I immediately just jumped onto I want to have sex. I didn't care about anything else. And it was really eye-opening for me. And looking back on it now, it's been about 5 years now, like 4 or 5 years since I actually did that. And it actually really helped me do a lot better in my seeking out women. Because I didn't stop swiping on women. I didn't stop hooking up and having one night stands with women. It wasn't an automatic fix. It wasn't like a sitcom episode where I discovered the cruelty of my ways and I completely changed overnight. No, but that I think was step one for me in realizing that looking for hookups and random hookups with people and taking advantage of people in a state that they shouldn't be in, or allowing someone to do that to me, was not the right way to go. But as time went on, I kind of realized that that's really what that part of your life is supposed to be. That time in college, after college, before you settle down, get married, have kids, start a family, or start your career and don't have kids and don't get married. That's what that time of your life is for. It's to find out who you are, what you want, and what you don't want. And I was so stuck on wanting to wife a girl so quick that I never stopped and said, you know what? The journey to finding that is just as important as finding that person. And sometimes that's all you can ask for, is a moment in life where you kind of open your eyes and realize what it is you were doing was wrong. And now, as I attempt to record this episode while interrupting my kids running rampant through my house, I realized that I kind of came full circle. I learned a really valuable lesson in that situation. I learned a really valuable lesson in that time in my life. And although this isn't the last time you're going to get a story about me meeting a girl online and learning a very valuable lesson, it also is sometimes not really about the lesson, but the journey. I wouldn't have known what it was I was doing wrong if I didn't do the wrong thing. And sometimes that's what a lot of people need to learn. Your 20s are for fucking up. Your 20s are for dating the wrong person and making mistakes and trying new things and being the lesson that you use later on in life to tell a younger generation. Whether you have children or not, whether you get married or not, the time in your life between 21 and about 26 are the couple of years where you actually learn the lessons that you'll turn around one day and teach to somebody else. And in some ways, that's what I'm doing now. That's what this series is for. It's to teach a different generation all the mistakes I made and all the lessons I learned, in a hope that maybe you can relate to some of them. But until next time, this has been Liz with the One With podcast. Catch up on all episodes on Anchor, Breaker, and Spotify. And be sure to tune in next week at 9 p.m. when the next episode drops.